Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Max Spence Business Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. His name's Sam Lister. He's actually a LinkedIn and also social media influencer. And he also runs his own media company. It's great having you on the show, Sam.
Appreciate you having me on, Max.
Awesome. So why don't we jump right into this? Why don't we do an intro about, who you are, where did you grow up, and, how did you get into media and social media? And then that people that maybe don't know, you've blown up on, LinkedIn with, I believe like 34,000 followers and also on Instagram as well. So
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from Greenville, Wisconsin. Currently live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Super close together. So born and raised in Wisconsin, in the Midwest here, and really just decided in high school that I was going to take social media seriously. I've always been fascinated with social media. I used to grow Instagram accounts when I was in seventh grade. I had 90,000 followers in seventh grade. And no one really knows that, but I was obsessed with growth hacking and weird stuff in early Instagram days. But I've always just been on social. So as I really just grew up, I guess I knew I wasn't going to go to university. I knew I wasn't going to go to college. So I wanted to just jump right into entrepreneurship. So I figured I would document that whole journey through starting my own business and the failures and successes that I was going to have in the future, and just document the journey of not going to school. So that's exactly how I started. So I started my senior year in high school. I made my first videos just talking about what I was trying to do at the time, testing a bunch of different entrepreneurial ventures like real estate, e-commerce, cryptocurrency, forex trading, anything under the sun to make money. And the last thing I tested was actually video and making videos for other people from a production standpoint. Because I was still making all of those videos with my iPhone, editing them in iMovie. So I hopped over to LinkedIn in the fall of 2018. So a little more than 2 years ago. And then people started reaching out to me from the LinkedIn platform, asking if I could make videos for them. And those were my first clients. So I would just sit there with my iPhone recording them. And then I just took every opportunity since then and ran with it. So I've just done a bunch of stuff in the media space, specifically in the video space, and I've been pivoting a bunch these past 2 years. So now we're doing just social media video editing for top level personal brands, fully remote. So if you need editing, that's essentially what we do.
yeah, that's absolutely crazy. And yeah, I've seen you on I've seen quite a few of your videos on LinkedIn, and I love them. They're of really great quality videos. And they really catch your eye, and that's the important thing, right? Is usually when I scrolling, you can scroll through LinkedIn, you'll see a lot of different stuff, but usually when I see one of your videos, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, or oh yeah, that catches my eye, which is awesome. So what do you think, what sort of natural attributes about yourself do you think made you go into media over, like you said, you were testing, seeing, sort of tasting of different things and seeing what you liked, in real estate, stocks and all that sort of stuff, or maybe other companies and, like clothing or other things. What sort of made you go towards media?
Yeah, it was the fact that I could be myself and I could leverage my own story and my experiences in the world, and other people would find that valuable. And that's really what attracted me. The, Facebook stock doesn't care about who you are and what your story is. It goes up and down. It doesn't care who you are. It's same with real estate, and I guess real estate is a little different because I think real estate and media is pretty directly correlated nowadays. But yeah, it was really the fact that I could just be myself, and that's how I could sell people. That's how I could make these conversations and build that online community and place to really just collaborate with other people. So yeah, it was I guess the drive for collaboration, and but also just being myself.
Oh,
That's
okay,
what media
awesome,
allowed me to.
awesome. So what made you also what made you want to go into entrepreneurship over going to work at a company or something, or going to work at a media company? Have you always sort of been doing, you always like to do your own thing, and you always like to sort of have control of how you spend your time and stuff, or
Yeah, I don't
how?
like listening to people.
Yeah.
I don't like listening to people or following directions. So I'm like, okay, I don't really fit into a corporate setting. I've had one job all my life, and that was at like the same exact company. It was a baseball field in summer and a snowboard park in winter, like a ski hill in winter. I love snowboarding and I love baseball, so it didn't really feel like work. And I've only worked there from like 14 to 18. That was my only job. Quit at 18, and I will probably never get a job again. So that was my like one and done job. Loved it. Loved every second of it. I worked ridiculous hours, but it was doing something I enjoyed. But yeah, as far as like going corporate and getting like a job at like another media company, which probably makes more sense than starting a media company from scratch with an iPhone when you've never touched a camera before. It's because I couldn't get a job anywhere. I had no experience, I had no skills. I couldn't go into any media company and say, hey, can I have a video production job, a video editing job? Because I didn't know anything. So I'm like, okay, I'll just create my own job. So that's why that's what really pushed me into entrepreneurship.
Okay, yeah, awesome, awesome. Yeah, the thing I sort of noticed with a lot of entrepreneurs, because I've interviewed a lot of different people on the podcast, and some of them being, executives, other being entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are very like romantic with the adventure of creating a business. They love that, I don't know how I'm going to figure this out, and it's going to be really hard and it's going to suck, but it makes them excited to sort of go down this path of not knowing. And there's not like, oh, if I work at this company, then I'll get promoted to this, and it'll just be like, you sort of have your life mapped out ahead of you. I find entrepreneurs, it's more like there's this unknown of like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be really exciting to figure it all out and fail and figure this out. And then when I do achieve something and build something, I'm going to be so excited because it was me, and I pushed myself to my limits to achieve it, which I find with a lot of entrepreneurs. So I want to sort of talk about now is you like you were saying, you just jumped straight into making your own company, which is crazy. And so like what sort of things like if you were gonna say to somebody who is younger, because a lot of people might be afraid to do that, to jump into creating their own company in media. So what sort of drove you forward?
Yeah, having your back against the wall and not having any plan B really helped me out. I was fortunate enough to have a good relationship with my parents at the time too, and I still do. That I was still living at home. I really had no expenses, so when I quit my job, my like later half of my senior year, or it was like that summer going into what would be my freshman year of college. Again, didn't go to college, but it was that like June or July time, that summer. I just saved up enough from just working the past 4 years to be able to just sustain for a few months on my own. So I think before just blindly jumping into the deep end without any resource, without any knowledge, I think build yourself a little buffer. Build yourself, okay, what are my monthly expenses? Do I have enough saved up that I can still feed myself? I'm still, whether it's you're living at home, you need to move back with your parents, which is completely fine. Find out what that baseline is, make sure that baseline is covered, and then take the leap. That's what really helped me, because I had an advantage. I was 17, 18 years old. I was living at home. I didn't have a car payment. I didn't have a house payment. I didn't have really anything. A lot of my food was paid for just because I'm living at home. So that really enabled me to put all of the money I was making and any like client money back into the business at the time. So that's really helped me. So especially if you're young, leverage your age and leverage not having so many commitments in your life. Typically, people aren't married until a little later in life. They don't have kids. And if you do, that's fine, but it just makes things more hard and complicated in the process. So leverage when you have not a lot of responsibilities and commitments. That's my biggest suggestion.
I agree with that as well. As well, probably one of the stupidest things I've done is like I got into real estate for a bit, and part of that was like you really need to sort of I thought you really need to look the part. So I went and sort of I got a car, and the car was it's an okay, it's not like super fancy car, but it's like a little bit more expensive than I to be honest now, like I should have just got like some crappy Honda Civic that's like 2010 or something, paid 3 or 4 grand for it and been good. because now that's still a liability, and now it's a debt that you have to keep paying for, which is which sort of hinders your ability to pivot quickly and go on the attack, because you have this payment you have to keep paying for. So it's like you always have to make sure that you have to manage your risks and other things like that. So having that ability where you have like zero debts or anything like that, that is the perfect time to just go crazy and just go try as many things as you can, pretty much.
Yep. Agreed, man.
So I want to talk to you about now is time management. So I've seen like everything that you've been doing and stuff, and you're really big on, so from what I've seen anyway, you seem like a guy who's very big on personal development, learning, teaching yourself. Do you read a lot of books by chance?
A ton.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So this is why I love having people on the podcast such as yourself, because I'm able to like learn a lot of stuff from you by asking, certain questions and stuff, and just sort of stuff that you figured out. And, you already have like the key points of, how to, operate something better. So I want to talk to you about how do you manage your time, schedule your days to be like sort of really productive, and sort of how do you schedule your days when, you like everybody in the world, you're not going to feel like you want to put your 100% into it some days, and sort of how do you manage that, with like, mental health and other things like that?
Yeah, again, I'm human just like the next human in line, and life happens, and this has been a crazy year, specifically in 2020. So obviously there's always going to be things feeding for your attention here. But as far as my day-to-day schedule, I try to not be too structured, besides my morning routine and kind of reflecting back on the day. And then kind of that in between is where I just block out chunks of time to do my work. So let's say for like my morning routine, it doesn't really matter when I get up. I've been just trying a lot of different ways as far as just getting the best quality of sleep and letting my body sleep in. So sometimes I wake up at 4:30, 5 a.m. in the morning, but sometimes I let my body sleep in until 6:30, 7:30. But just as long as when I wake up, it's more important about the time you are awake than the time you are sleeping. And what are you going to do with that time you are up? So when I get up, I meditate, I read, I try to work out, I run, I journal, I reflect on the day, like go through goals, go through like to-do lists for the day. And then I really get on with my day after I accomplish all of those for the first 2 to 3 hours of the day. Really try not to get distracted with my phone. And then I jump into what's my number one most important task of the day. As long as I can complete that, my day is good. It's a success. And then I can kind of move on. So that's really how I prioritize. So set goals, and what is that number one activity that will move you closer to that goal. Accomplish that one thing every day, and then you're in a good spot. And then obviously everything else, there's more than just one thing to do in a day. Then you kind of just go step by step and block out time to accomplish the other things on your list. And then when the day is at the end, try to reflect on that day, highlight wins, highlight losses. How do you get better tomorrow? Accomplishments, all of that good stuff. So that kind of evening routine is definitely something I'm working on right now. Definitely harder than my morning routine, just because my morning routine is more built into my habits than my evening routine, but really putting a like hard stop on the day when the work day is done. That's kind of how I structure it.
Yeah, that is true. And I've sort of found for myself is really creating those good habits, right? With my podcasting and stuff is this is what I've personally learned from it is like, I made it as easy as possible just to start, and then start doing it, and then just start creating easy habits. And then I started to build off those. Like with my podcasting, I started with, one audio, not even YouTube, not even anything else, just not even clips, just audio. That was it. And just doing one of those a week, and then built that to 2, and then put out YouTube, and then started creating clips and stuff like that. I was just wondering, cause like, like everybody else that like when you're, like the interesting thing is like when you're an entrepreneur, you're in charge of your own time. You can be a lot more lenient with yourself than, like if you're working at a company, it's like you can put on those 8 hours. And if somebody's saying to you, this needs to get done, you'll get it done, right? There's no problem. But when it's in your head, you're like, oh, I need to get this done. you know, you might be like, oh, I'll push it to tomorrow. So how do you actually pull yourself out of like, you know, let's say you have one day where it's just like, you really don't feel like doing anything. You just want to sort of relax and, you know, maybe watch Netflix or chill and, or, you know, go see family or something. What do you sort of do in those times? And I'm not saying it's not a bad thing to do those things, but, you know, it's just how do you, you know, it's like Tuesday and it's like, you know, you got stuff to do. So like, what do you do to sort of pull yourself out of that?
Yeah, I go out and watch Netflix if I want to watch Netflix, and visit family if I want to visit family, and I don't beat myself up over that. And that's something that I've worked really hard on, of letting myself and my body and my mind take breaks when when it needs breaks. I don't care if it's a middle of the week, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, or it's the weekends. Sometimes I get random source of inspiration on the weekend, and cool, I want to film a podcast right now. Awesome. But then sometimes on a random Tuesday, I'm like, I want to take the day off. Then I take the day off. And that's the benefit of having obviously a team and systems around you. If you're a solopreneur, you don't really have that luxury, and then your business doesn't grow. But that's something I've been working on, is building systems around me to really automate everything about my business, so I don't need to work in the business and work into the day-to-day operations every day. So everything runs itself. So once you get to that point, then yeah, you can definitely take that time off guilt-free. But again, I was just thinking back to when I was like first starting. I was just solopreneur. It was just me, myself, and I. And I would work 15, 16, 17-hour days, day in and day out. And it was fun, but it wasn't sustainable. And I've learned a lot since then. But yeah, going back to the original point of what happened when you want to take a day off, I take a day off. I'm so excited for winter to come. I'm a big snowboarder. I'm going to take so many days off and just snowboard and get creative and find flow, and super excited. So yeah, really trying to be okay with that.
Yeah, like 100%, and I agree with you with that. And there's two things that I really liked there was one of them was finding, like, you going back to, you know, finding that one thing that's going to push you forward your business forward the most, right? Because there's a lot of things you can do that can make you busy but aren't going to push you forward. So really taking the time to set those goals and think about your business and think, what can I do to push the business forward the most? And the second thing was systems. And the thing, and sort of how I think about this, which you might agree and you might not agree, is I sort of look at Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos, you know, this guy who's reached, you know, almost $200 billion of net worth. You know, this guy isn't working, you know, 20-hour days nonstop every single day. This guy, you know, he takes time off. He's like, to reach that level, you can't work for it. You have to make smart decisions, and you have to make the right decisions. So I sort of wanted to take your take on that, of like, what things have you sort of analyzed in your business that push it forward the most?
It's a really, really great question. Good job. um, yeah, it's hiring people better and smarter than you. I think that's what it really comes down to, and that's at its core. If you can hire someone, sales to be specific, that's kind of the newest system I'm building out. If I can hire someone to handle a lot of sales and responding and sending out messages and stuff, and just they know the sales process, then I don't need to spend that time doing sales, because they're better than me at it and they're working on it. They're in their lane, so they can excel at what they're good at. I think that's the biggest thing. So finding the right people and putting them in the right roles, I think that's the really biggest thing to move your business forward, and just identifying those.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, the interesting thought I have with this is, you know, like when you're hiring somebody and you hire somebody better than yourself at something, which makes a lot of sense. But my always thought process is like, why does this person want to come work for me? You know, if they're amazing at sales, why don't they want to start their own company or something? Or, you know, start their own sales company or start their own company if they have all this experience in selling. So what are your sort of thoughts on that? Because entrepreneurship and being a CEO is a really weird job title, to be honest. It's not like normal. It's you're doing a lot of different things. You're not like, it's nothing set, and you're being very, very creative, and you're choosing where the business is to go, right? So my thought process has always been with this, is like, why would somebody want to work in this company? as a salesman when they could start their own company. But I guess actually, I want to sort of hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's the risk versus reward. So entrepreneurs are the riskiest. They're at the top. They put up the capital, they put up the risk, they put up the hours, they put up everything. They risk it all. Anyone below that, whether it's the CEO to commission only salesperson, they can rely on that entrepreneur. And a lot of salespeople, they don't want to be their own boss, their own entrepreneurs. They want the freedom and flexibility being a commission only salesperson enables them to do. They can kind of make their own hours. They can make as much as they want as long as the services and products are good that they're selling. But they don't have any overhead. They don't need to worry about payroll. They don't need to worry about expenses and insurance and clients and all of those things. So it's the risk versus reward. A lot of people aren't willing to take that risk to get into entrepreneurship, and that's completely fine. And some people want to get involved with startups and stuff, which are also high risk. So they have a higher risk tolerance than most, but they don't want to be that go-to entrepreneur, that number one person to really absorb all of the risk and all of, I guess, the shit that entrepreneurs go through.
Oh, okay, yeah. That does make a lot of sense and stuff. So yeah, and what are your thoughts around that between like, because I consider myself as like, I'm not a thoroughbred entrepreneur, but I also don't want to work in a company for the majority of my life. I want to start my own business, and in different things. But I'm not. But I'm fine. I'm very in the middle. So my thought process has always been like, what's sort of the difference between somebody who is like in the middle, a true entrepreneur, and then somebody that just wants to work in a company? And what are your sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess like the scale of entrepreneurship of like one on the left, there's super corporate. I want a 9 to 5 job that pays me X amount per year. I get X time off. I get all of the benefits. I don't want to worry when I clock in, I'm working. When I clock out, I'm out not working. And that time away, it is my time. That's on the left side. The right side is like, yo, I am on 24/7. I'm an entrepreneur. Like it's my own ship. I built everything. And then there's kind of the in between. And I think most people fall in the in between. So I think you need to ask yourself, what are your values, and can you find other companies that align with those values? If a big value of yours is, let's say, family and having time off to see family, does that company allow you to work remotely when obviously with the current situation of the world right now, a lot of people are working remote, but let's say COVID aside, 2020 aside, say that company doesn't allow you to work remotely, that you only get 2 weeks a year or something, they're super strict on that. Okay, maybe that doesn't work for you. But then maybe there's another super like innovative company and a fun company to work for. They say, okay, you can work remote literally whenever. We'll pay for your flights home to see your family if your family is like out of state or anything. So it's really just knowing your values and seeing if those values align with any companies. And if they don't and you want to launch your own thing, then awesome, launch your own thing. So I think a lot of people get caught up in the title of, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't really know what it entails. Yes, you want freedom. Freedom doesn't exactly equal entrepreneurship, and vice versa. Entrepreneurship doesn't exactly equal freedom. It's more likely the other way around. Entrepreneurship is the opposite of freedom when you're first starting. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Okay, awesome. So I sort of want to pivot it now to what actions have you taken in your life that have changed your life the most for the better, or maybe what you've learned from.
Yeah, meditating. I I could take this answer quite a bit of different ways. Maybe I'll touch on it later, but yeah, I think if I had to pinpoint the one thing that has profoundly changed my life is meditating and creating space for myself to just think and sit there with my thoughts. It has decreased my stress. It's taught me how to be more in tune with myself, in tune with my thoughts. If I'm faced with a stressful situation, I know how to go about it, and I just know what's coming up in my body more. Um, And it's just again, the world is so noisy that taking deliberate time to just sit there and breathe in silence, or in maybe you have just like a rain landscape or a beach landscape. It's really no distractions around you though. I think that a lot of people need that, again, because there's so much media, there's so much consumption of these headlines, and it's just toxic information and toxic news in the world. So I think taking a time to unplug and really finding yourself is important, because so many people wake up, they turn over, they hit off their alarm, and they start scrolling on Instagram until the second they fall asleep. They get tired, they let their phone fall asleep on their face, and they're like, oh wow, I was scrolling on Instagram literally from the second I wake up to the second I go to bed. And everything in between is just news, media consumption, more information. We have the most information we've ever had right now, and I don't think that's very healthy. So deliberately taking time and creating that space for yourself, almost that space and safe bubble around you of, okay, I'm going to sit here distraction free. I'm going to do the most simple thing on earth you can do, which is sit down and breathe. You really think about that. That is like, what is harder than that? To sit down and breathe. There's really not anything. That is the core of living and being, just being. Everyone does it. All animals do it. And a lot of people can't do it. A lot of people can't sit down and sit with their thoughts. And that's terrifying to me. If you're in a place where you can't sit down and really explore your own thoughts, you are in a very hurt place. So I'd say start doing it and start going into that, because we only have one thing stays constant from the moment we wake up and come out of the womb, the moment we are born to the moment we die, and that is our breath. Everything else will change. Your family will change, yourself will change, your outsides, your environment, your living quarters, your health, everything will change besides your breath. That
Yeah,
shit's wild,
yeah.
and people don't focus on it.
Yeah, that is pretty true. I got into a conversation recently with a personal trainer. He meditates a lot, and he says some of his biggest life breakthroughs has been when meditating and sort of figuring out how internally is sort of in, like, his thoughts work and everything like that, which is absolutely amazing. I think this is a great segue to go into. I sort of ask this every now and then, and I like to bring it up as much as I can, and sort of get people's different perspectives on it. So what makes you happy in life? What gets you excited to be alive?
Yeah, just waking up every day and like realizing the opportunities that I can create for myself. That's what really pumps me up. It's not entrepreneurship. It's not building a business. It's not building systems and building a video editing business and creating content online. It's just literally the fact of, I woke up today and I'm in 100% control of my life, and I can change and shape my life any which way I want. At the core, that is the most empowering thing I feel every day, and that's what gets me excited. That's what wakes me up, of knowing I have those opportunities and knowing I'm in control of kind of my own destiny, if you will. And I don't think a lot of people think about that. I think a lot of people, myself included, really, before I dug into self-development, I just kind of go with the flow in life and let other people dictate their lives and let other people shape and mold who they are and what they do day to day. But once you really start breaking that mold and taking hold of your life, I think that's when true happiness and contentness really prevails. And I think Jay Shetty had a podcast with Ed Milet. I think that was the duo. And I think Jay Shetty was saying how you constantly need to be blissfully dissatisfied with your life. And that word combo, blissfully dissatisfied, really stuck with me, because it's the fact that, again, you woke up, you're so grateful, you're so present that you just have another opportunity, and you just live in true bliss and harmony of, I'm another human being. I'm in control of my life. But then also the dissatisfaction of that kind of comes with, like, I need to keep pushing, and I want to push myself. I want to see how much impact I can make. I want to see what changes I can make in the world. I want to see who I can connect to and how many people's lives I can change. So that kind of duopoly there of words, that really stuck out with me, and that's what I try to hold true to my life right now. So that's really what gets me excited.
Yeah, that is pretty that is pretty amazing. And that's one thing I struggle with is like waking up and being with a lot of gratitude for just being in, being alive, and just being thankful that, you live in Canada or the US or in certain areas of the country, that you don't have to worry about a lot of stuff that other people have to worry about. But also being hungry as well to go after and push yourself more and more and more, and also being patient with time as well, that not everything, the majority of stuff isn't going to happen. Well, everything's not going to happen right at the second. It's going to take, months, years, decades to get to certain levels that you want to achieve. So really combining those three into one is really hard to, I find really hard to understand. And like you can talk about it and contextualize it and stuff, but it's really, really hard to understand like inside, and like really feel it and understand it and be okay with it. But yeah, I sort of want to talk about now is what sort of, because you've grown your following to a crazy number. What have you seen as the best ROI for, LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and TikTok?
Hmm. I guess could you reward, as far as like ROI, are we talking about like actually like dollars in the door, or like what do
Oh
you,
no, sorry.
I guess,
I should have worded that a lot better.
no, you're good,
Yeah,
man.
all good. Yeah. So what I mean is like growing your personal brand.
Mm.
What has been the best ROI? I know for LinkedIn that it's a lot more on written content, and Instagram is more. Well, this is what I think anyway. Is a lot more on, videos and pictures and stories, and then Facebook I have no clue, and TikTok I have no clue either.
Yeah, I really try not to think about any tactics or growth hacking or any ways that how you should do social media, what you should put out on social. If LinkedIn posts and written word is working the best and that's the fastest way to grow, I will purposely do video. So that's something that I've always tried not to get sucked into of, oh, I need to feed the algorithm essentially. So I'm definitely not the best person to ask for that. But one thing that's really stayed consistent is just my story. I've just been consistently sharing my life experiences across any platforms. It doesn't matter if it's LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok. It's less about the platforms, but more about your story and your message. So I think if you want to grow and grow a community, like, hone in on that message, hone in on who you are and what do you want to give to the world, what do you want to give to the viewers and listeners that are consuming that content. How are you going to improve their lives? I think if you worry about that more so than the following, then the followers come. Again, social media is always subjective. There's always going to be an algorithm. Your posts are always going to be shadow banned and hidden and other bullshit that people love to complain about because their content sucks and they're not willing to make those changes and they're not willing to read your audience. If I post a video and it gets 1 like and 0 comments, I'm like, damn, that's not LinkedIn's fault. That's my fault. That's my fault because I didn't read the audience. Obviously that piece of content didn't resonate with my audience. So I'm going to change it. And then maybe I make a few changes. I make a few wording changes about topics and stuff. And then I post another video and it gets 10,000 views and 100 comments and like it does really well. So it's just having that constant learning mentality of never, again, being blissfully dissatisfied almost. Like, okay, I'm pumped because all of these platforms are free. It's an amazing opportunity to really share my message with the world. But at the same time, keep pushing, keep learning, and really having that learning mentality. I think if you go into that, it doesn't matter what algorithms, what posts you make, and everything.
Okay, awesome. Well, yeah, I sort of want to. I'm really fascinated with your story and how you just create content so probably at the beginning you probably didn't find it easily, but like you've got really good at creating content, and just telling your story. And it's not like, you know, like for a lot of people, they're thinking like, oh, I have to do something crazy, or I have to have some accomplishment or anything like that. You're literally just telling the process from like day one of having no clients to, building to a couple clients, to losing clients, to getting more clients, and sort of then pivoting and saying, you know what, I actually don't want to do this anymore. I want to go do this. And it's sort of staying like, it's not like you're stuck to like one certain sort of brand, or, like the, your purpose or something like that. It's like, I find with a lot of people is like, and same thing with myself, is like your identity is sort of hooked to this one thing. And that's who you are, and you really don't want to change it. But you've done a really good job of just like, I've seen that you've pivoted to a lot of different things, and you've just done it, and you've still carried on your personal brand, and you're still the same. It's just you're doing something else now. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with saying, actually, I don't enjoy what I'm doing anymore. I want to change it to something else. So I want to sort of ask you, how did you actually sort of find that? And how did you sort of deal with that? Because I know when I make pivots, I like previously in my life, I had like 3 to 4 months where I was depressed and stuff, and it was just shit, and it was just like not empathetic. I think maybe it's empathetic, where I just didn't really care about stuff, and it was just like, wow, this is really weird.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's, instead of wrapping your ego and identity around those external factors, it's wrapping your ego and identity around being the learner and going into every single situation knowing you can learn something from it. And then for me, it's simply documenting that story. I am by no means an expert in anything. I'm not an influencer or anything. I'm being me. I'm Sam. And I'm going to show up as Sam every single day. And for the people that want to listen, then awesome. For the people that don't, awesome. Go on with your life. Since the start, I've really tried to be deliberate on, okay, this is me. This is the story I'm going to tell. It's an ongoing story. I'm going to just document my way through learning all of these things. And it's a common theme is, what do I wish I knew growing up? What would I tell my younger self? That's the content I create. So every single day I learn something new that would benefit myself 3 years ago or 4 years ago when I started, and that's the content I'll create. So it's easy for me because it's a chance to be myself and just talk to my younger self, because I was him 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 1 year ago, and I'm just learning so much along the way. So in that process, I know other people resonate with it because there's other people like myself 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago that are in that place, and maybe this content can help them. That's what I've really just stuck with. I never wrap my identity of, oh, I'm the go-to video editor guy. I'm going to base all of my content around video editing and only going to talk about video editing. That's super limiting to me, and it's super boring. I want to talk about a bunch of random stuff that all tie into who I am, like meditating, like snowboarding, like finding a creative flow, to self-development, to reading books, to everything in between. That's what interests me more. Also, so myself in 10, 15, 20 years can look back on these videos and say, damn, I really did that. I documented this whole journey, and it's a perfect reflection of looking back on those old documents and that old content to say, okay, that's exactly the moment in time I was feeling this one thing, or I closed this deal and I made this content, and all of those things. We'll have these videos forever. We'll have these podcasts forever. So it's so cool to be able to look back on that old content. So that's why it comes pretty naturally to me now.
Okay, awesome. So do you ever feel like you're chasing something at all in life?
Um, Again, you're good at this, man. You're good. I love this question. I guess I don't really feel like I'm chasing something, but at the same time, I'm really good at putting unnecessary pressure on myself to meet goals and standards that I put on myself and no one else does. So I think it's a constant battle between chasing and, again, being blissfully dissatisfied. Again, right now at the moment, I'm just super present. I'm thinking, I'm just like, no, I'm not chasing anything. I'm just being, and we're having a really good conversation. But then there's times when I'm like, damn, I didn't hit these goals. I'm constantly chasing these revenue numbers, this follower count, and that's definitely the more detrimental side of myself. And I think everyone has it, and I'm the first one to admit that I have it. And I'm another human being. I think everyone has that. So I compare myself a ton. I get down on myself a ton. But again, it's a constant battle between, dude, like, don't compare yourself. Like, comparison is the enemy of love and compassion and empathy for others. And just as long as I can lean into that, I'm good. So as far as chasing myself, I'm chasing happiness, kind of. Now, again, it's risky to say you're chasing happiness if you're not just truly present and happy. So I'll retract my previous statement and say I'm not chasing happiness. I'm just chasing being the best version of myself. That's what I'm really chasing.
Yeah, I've sort of like, being a young guy with like not a lot of world experience. I'm 20 years old. I can relate to that a lot because I sort of find with myself, to be honest, some days I have no clue what I'm doing.
Same, like almost every day.
I think I know what I want out of life, and then sometimes I'm like, I don't really know what I want out of life. And it's like, you're only on this world for a certain amount of time, and I guess it's for, whatever, if you're religious or you believe in other stuff, it's like whatever you sort of think. I know for me personally, I think, you're only on this world for a short amount of time, and it's like, what do I want to do with that time? It's like, I want to be happy, but I also want to achieve a lot. But I want to achieve a lot in something that I love doing, but finding what I love to do. And there's like all these questions that are really difficult to, that I ask that I don't have answers for, right? It's like the majority, I would probably say for a lot of people, it's the same, right? And it's like, am I chasing chasing money? But if I'm chasing money, then, that doesn't also mean happiness. But if I'm chasing happiness, there's people that are happy. Like I want to sort of find this balance, and I find it very difficult to sort of achieve that balance. And I've spoken to some people where they've said you're never going to reach balance. There's never, I was speaking to this other podcaster, and he brought up a really interesting point. Was like, he says, you're never going to wake up a day and just feel like, wow, I'm perfectly balanced. My career is exactly where it should be. My happiness, my family time, everything's equally, all my time spent is equally put in the right places, and I feel completely zenned out. And I'm thinking like, because like life is so weird, and this is this is a business podcast, but it gets a little bit. I like to really go into the sort of the mental sort of side of business, right? Because that's like the difference, because all the technical, all the skills, everything you need to know is out there because we have Google and YouTube. You can, every technical skill you need, you can learn nowadays easily. It's at your fingertips, if you need to connect or anything like that. But what separates somebody from, being overwhelmingly happy and also achieving great success is just their mental ability and how they've sort of organized stuff in their brain. And I'm not too sure where I'm going with this question, but I was just wondering, pretty much that I was just, usually I like to do this just like with a podcast and such as yourself. And I know you're really into Gary Vee. And I love Gary Vee the same. And I love how this guy, has become very successful, but also he's very happy with himself as well. And he has no problem with, losing everything and going back to ground zero. So, yeah, I'm not too sure I wanted to go with that, but I sort of just wanted to talk to something on that sort of part with, I don't know if you have any points to add to that.
Yeah, I think it's again, I'm kind of just sitting here being present, and like, you said it all. Like it's so true. And going back to the point of like you don't know things or you think you know things, and like it's a constant battle of like the balance question is awesome. It's like there's no such thing as work-life balance. There's work-life alignment. Are you aligned in all aspects of your life? And that's what you can really judge yourself on, almost, if you're using the term judgment for lack of better terms. But yeah, it's really finding that alignment between everything, because there's an opportunity cost. There's a give or take. If you're hanging out with family, then you're not growing your business. If you're growing your business, you're not hanging out with your family. Obviously, nitty gritty. Oh, you can build systems and that'll grow your business on automated. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying if you're working, you're spending time away from family, and it's a constant pull there. So it's finding what works for you. Again, in this short life we have give or take 100 years to live, which is insane. You're 20, I'm 20, 21 tomorrow for the October 3rd. I don't know when this podcast is going out. So it's nuts. It's like, thank you. But it's like, damn, we're 20% of the way done with life, roughly. And if you really think about that, that's what I was really reflecting on as you were bringing this up, of how crazy is it that life is so macro and so big in life. It's like you really can't stress about the such small things. Say this podcast was the worst podcast both of us has ever done, and we like weren't feeling it. Like we hated the podcast, we hated the episode, we thought it was a failure, we thought it was no one's gonna watch it, whatever it is. Like, because it's everyone has those days, or say you lose a deal, you lose a client, whatever it is. In the macro of life, how big does that affect you? Not a lot at all. So that's what I was really thinking about. I know Gary says it a bunch, but it's perspective. That's what it really comes down to. And it's being grateful that we even have this life to live. We can have these conversations, and the controls are in our hands. We are our own superheroes of our own story. And if you really embody that superhero mentality and superhero, I guess, figure in your own life story, that's super empowering. So I think that's what you can do more of in life going forward.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I sort of get a lot of like Gary V vibes with you and stuff, and so like have you ever thought, like, do you sort of want to do the same thing with affecting people on that scale of giving out that much, because he gives out a lot of technical information, but it's more like this guy is just like a psychologist, and he's just giving out like information that you listen to these podcasts and it just unlocks stuff inside of you, like inside your brain and stuff, of like different ways of looking at life. And like one of the craziest things I recently heard from, I don't know if you listen to this podcast, was, with COVID and how shitty COVID is and how much is affecting people. And, it's taking away businesses are struggling, certain businesses are going out of business. But he was saying, to put things in perspective, was like, if COVID started like 6 weeks earlier, Kobe Bryant would still be alive.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like, when I thought about that, I was like, holy shit. I was like, if COVID happened, he wouldn't have been flying, he would still be alive, and that's what he was saying, was like, because you're not driving around, or because you're not taking a flight, that could have actually saved your life. You could have died in an accident. You could have died, walking down the street to your job, and a bus or something comes and hits you, or, in a flight or something, a flight crash, or maybe, you're in a different part of the world and you contract an even more deadly disease than COVID or something. Which I was thinking was like, that's absolutely crazy, man.
Perspective. It's all perspective. It's all
so what I sort of want to ask you now is like, what do you really want out of life? Which is, it's also a very big question.
Yeah, I want to leave the world and generations to come better than when I got here, in my own unique ways, and just finding complete satisfaction and happiness in that process. Again, I just want to shift the collective consciousness of society. If you want to put it in a fancy, well put together sentence. But yeah, it's seeking happiness. It's seeking happiness and being of service to other people. That's what I'm really, really seeking. And how many lives can I touch? How many lives can I impact? How many people's lives can I change? That's really the question I ask myself when I get asked that question too.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And for, yeah, yeah, I like that a lot. And I sort of want to ask you because you've also like I was talking about previously, you've done a lot of really amazing pivots. Uh, what, what did you do when, like one of the, like in business related, what was one of the worst things that happened? And how did you sort of overcome that?
Hmm. Yeah, it was probably at the end of 2019, almost a year ago. About a year ago, the Q4 of 2019 was really rough because I really didn't know what direction to take the company. I thought I was going to close down the agency. I didn't know if I wanted to launch a full agency and not just do video. And I was just doing a lot of thinking back and forth, and just things weren't really aligning. But I got through it. Then at the start of 2020, I myself and my like video partner at the time, we were going dead set on targeting in-person experiential companies. So again, back to the COVID in perspective conversation. If we went that direction, we would have bet our whole business on restaurants and bars and movie theaters and bowling alleys and top golf and all of those rock climbing, all of the in-person experiences, like the businesses that were literally the hardest hit by COVID. That is the direction we were going to go early 2020 until we shifted that. And I'm like, okay, we're not going this route. We're going to launch editing. And we launched editing once COVID hit. And here we are, about 6-7 months later, and the business is growing faster than I ever thought possible. And like, this is what I've been waiting for 2.5 years of in entrepreneurship. Like, this is literally the point where I'm like, now I can implement everything I've learned because we have a direction. It works. We have a proven model, and now it's just scale. But again, going back to that, or 9 months ago, 10 months ago, we would have been out of business in a month if we really went down that route. So that was kind of the scariest time in retrospect. Obviously, we didn't know it at the time that the world was going to shut down. But yeah, thinking like, damn, if we went down that route and if we didn't have the foresight to pivot and make that change, we'd have been out of business 7 months ago.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy to think about, and I think about that sometimes. Is just like those little pivots that sometimes seem so insignificant, and they just change your life forever. It's like a conversation you have with somebody, a meeting or whatever, right? It's just it's crazy to think about. But yeah, how big's your team right now?
So it's myself. I have an editing partner, and then my editing team is about 10 people right now. But that's constantly growing, really, as we have a pretty cool system down right now where my editing partner takes all of that, so I don't need to manage any of that. So they're constantly bringing people onto that side of the team, and then I have a few salespeople helping me on the sales side.
Oh, okay, okay.
I'm here.
Right.
I
So
don't know what happened to my camera. Sorry. Can you still hear me?
yeah, yeah, I can still hear you. Okay, yeah. I just want to ask you one more question, and then we can wrap it up because I know you've probably got to go soon, head out soon. I was just so how have you sort of set your company up? Because that sounds really interesting. How the diet. So you sort of manage the sort of front the sort of media relations of the company and maybe sales, and then your other friend sort of handles all the editing. And the people you're bringing on, are those like subcontractors that you're bringing onto the company?
Yeah, so they're essentially it's kind of a white label solution of I outsource all of the execution of the company to my editing partners. They handle all of the execution. Obviously, we have that partnership, and then I handle the kind of the front facing sales and marketing and that side of things. So as far as like salespeople, again, yeah, they're just subcontractors or commission only. So it's I've hired W-2 in the past. Currently, we don't have any W-2. I just think it's old and slow, and at this point, I don't really need to be paying their taxes and insurance and everything. So it just doesn't make sense to have any in-house employees right now. So yeah, that's kind of how I have it set up.
Okay, awesome. And then actually, if you have the time, I was just, do you have the time? Are you good to, if I ask you one more question?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. How do you go about finding, good quality people to bring onto your team or bring on, as subcontractors?
Social. Go and start talking to people. Start reaching out to your network, reaching out to other people. Post on LinkedIn saying, "Yo, I'm looking for marketing managers, social media managers," or go on Fiverr, Upwork, or any of the freelance sites and go there. I think that's the easiest place to start. And you just need to test. Yeah, there's some people that don't fit, and that's fine. You can always fire them, which is super hard and it's awful, but that's the way that business has to be. But yeah, it's just testing people out and seeing who's a fit and seeing who isn't.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, yeah, I like that a lot. I think that's a good place to conclude this podcast. I know you're probably a very busy guy. And so where can people find out more about, your personal brand, your company? I would highly recommend guys to check Sam out and to see what his company is doing. They produce some pretty high quality content. So I highly recommend them. But yeah, where can people find out more about, what you do and, your company?
Yeah, A, really appreciated you having me on. B, I'm really not too busy. I've been trying to be very deliberate on this because there's been such a again, when you ask people, "Oh, how are you doing?" "Oh, I've been busy. I've been super busy. It's Q4. I'm busy, busy, busy." But it's like, what the hell does that even mean? Like, why are you busy? Like, why has that been a status of achievement in society? And it's more so for Western societies here in the States, Canada, and Europe and everything. But the act of being busy is not something you should be proud of. Are you being effective with your time? Are you being productive with your time? And even less on the productive side, it shouldn't be how many check boxes have you checked this today. Like, are you feeling fulfilled that day? Like, that's the true success of happiness. Are you pumped about your life? It's less about being busy and more about just being effective of what you want to focus on and what you want to what you want to focus on and what you want to work on. So that's my little spiel about busyness versus actually being intentional about your day. Yes, I've been super intentional. No, I have not been too busy. And then you can find me anywhere on social. Instagram and LinkedIn are my main two platforms. Instagram handle is Sam X Lister, SAMXLISTER. On TikTok as well, Sam X Lister. You can check out my company at Blank Slate Media, BLNK Slate Media, and we just really help brands scale their video content across social. And then I'm doing a new podcast series. I don't know when this episode will be out, but I'm doing 90 podcasts in 90 days, all of Q4 in 2020. So bunch of cool episodes there. So again, check out the podcast, Starting Blank, really on all streaming platforms, Apple, Spotify, you name it.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I highly recommend guys, check Sam out, check out his new podcast that he has, his new podcast segment that he has coming out. He's done some pretty awesome podcasts. So yeah, I highly recommend him. It's great having you on the show, Sam.
Thanks so much, Max. You're a killer.